the picture on the garment that you wear. Is it permissible to wear like a garment that has like a Michael Jordan symbol on it? Is that a picture? There's no eyes, there's no feet, it's just him. You guys know the symbol, right? Are you allowed to pray with that? Because I just said picture. Picture means, you got to see like a real picture. Eyes, nose, face, everything. I mean, we're talking about a little Michael Jordan picture there, just the symbol. You allowed to pray with that? No. Why? Because the rule is anything that even represents a picture is also haram. See how it works? So even if you have a shadow of an image, like an animal or a real person, just the shadow alone becomes haram as well, okay? For the salah. You know the and one symbol as well? You know the and one product? There's this guy who also is holding a ball and he's running. Are you allowed to pray with that? No, why not? Because it represents a real person, right? So the same idea is given to anything. What if you have like a Nike symbol or a Reebok symbol? Are you allowed to pray with those? Yeah, why? Yeah, it's not a picture of a living thing. So now let's put it all together, guys. The ruling here is very simple. Anything that represents a living creature, either a human being or an animal, whether it's the creature itself or a shadow of that creature or an image of that creature, as long as it represents that creature, you try to cover it up when it's time to pray. My last question before we begin. Same thing along the same topic. What if you do have a Michael Jordan t-shirt on and you have the symbol? Are you allowed to just take like a piece of tape or take a towel or something and just cover it up and pray? And then after you're done, then you can just remove it? Are you allowed to do that? Is it covered when you do that? Yeah, it is. So you're allowed to? You're allowed to do it. Is it appropriate for the salah? Imagine you're standing in front of Allah and you're praying and you have this like towel or you have this garment, you have a piece of scotch tape there. I mean, does that look nice? Would you dress like that in front of an interview at work in front of your boss? You wouldn't do that, right? So you wouldn't want to do the same in front of Allah Azza wa Jal Himself. Make sense? One question that came up after the discussion that we had was, what if you have like a watch or a band and it also has an image or an actual picture? Let's say if you have a watch and in the watch itself there's a picture of like a dolphin or an animal or something in it. Are you allowed to pray with that watch? Sheikh bin Baz rahimahullah once gave a fatwa regarding this, and he mentions that the issue here is salah broken or nullified if you have pictures and you're wearing those pictures and you're praying with them? Is the salah nullified? No, it's not. And we made this very clear in our first discussion, that the salah is not broken because you have a picture on your garment. But the problem is that it distracts people around you, and most importantly, it distracts yourself. Now, is a tiny watch with a picture, an image of something, going to distract you in salah? Not really. So Shaykh bin Baz rahimahullah, and this is the opinion of the majority of scholars of Islam, is that it doesn't break the salah and it doesn't affect the salah in any way. So yes, it is permissible for you to wear, small tiny things like a watch or a bracelet or something, and it might have an image on it. It's permissible, doesn't affect the salah really, but still brings us to the same point. Should you wear something like this when you stand in front of Allah Azza wa Jal? And the answer is, you try to avoid it as best as you can, because you always want to maintain some level of purity and submission when you're praying towards Allah Azza wa Jal. The next error is certain colors that are prohibited to wear in the salah. Now, the Prophet ﷺ mentions, and he tells this to us after he saw one of the companions, Abdullah ibn Umar radiyallahu anhu. Now, Abdullah ibn Umar, he was wearing a garment that was of a particular color. Now, in the book here, it mentions like a saffron type of color. But this color, the garment that he was wearing was like a bright orange. It was a bright orange type of color. And the Prophet ﷺ saw him wearing this color and told him, "Inna هذه من ثياب الكفار فلا تلبسها." This is one of the garments of the disbelievers, so don't ever wear it. Now here, the Prophet ﷺ is talking specifically about Salah, because in the hadith itself, it mentions that the Prophet ﷺ saw him when he was going to pray. So it's important to know that wearing saffron colors or wearing a bright orange color is not haram. But it's one of the colors that is prohibited when it comes to the Salah. The question here is why? What's wrong with wearing that color? Some of the ulama, they mention here, it's basically mentioned in the hadith, because it was a garment that the disbelievers used to wear. It's one of those things that you want to stay away from wearing, simply because you don't want to look like someone else and then praying. So you don't want to look like you belong to another religion and then you're standing and you're praying Maghrib or you're praying Isha or something else. So the first type of color that's prohibited is sort of a bright orange color. The second type is saffron colors itself. And that's based also on another hadith as well. The third color that's prohibited to wear in the Salah is a bright red color. A bright red color. Now this bright red color is a color that is very, very obvious. It stands out more than anything else. Now don't look at the carpet and be like, well look, the carpet's red. Like what are we saying here? This is not what we're talking about. This brightest reddish color is a color that you rarely would see people wear, simply because it stands out so much that you can actually see a person in an entire crowd of people. You can spot him out. Even if there's thousands of people there, you'll spot out this individual because of that red color. So this is like a bright neon type of color. Again, it's also prohibited for the same reason. This was one of the garments that some of the mushrikun used to wear during the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So again, brings us back to the same thing. Red is not haram to wear, but just in the salah, certain colors you should try to avoid. Let's summarize this before we get to the next point. The lesson behind the colors that you choose to wear is very simple. And that is, you choose colors that are not distracting to others. Period. So use your common sense. Think about something that you wear that you know is not going to be distracting to others, and that color, try to avoid wearing it. It doesn't matter what it is. So next point. Next error. The next error is very interesting. It's not considered an error necessarily, but it's more of an etiquette that you should have. And that is wearing something on your head like the turban that the Prophet ﷺ would wear, or at least wearing what is considered to be a complete Muslim garment, whichever society you live in. So let me give you an example. In this society here in Toronto or in the West, if somebody prays without anything on their head, is that considered to be weird or abnormal? No, it's not. Not in our society, because majority of people in this society don't wear anything on their head. So it's considered to be a complete norm in our society to do this. And the society and the culture will determine what you should wear and how you should wear it. However, if you go to another country, so let's say you go to like Pakistan, you go to Saudi, or you go to those Arab countries, and you walk into the masjid, and you don't have anything on your head, is that considered to be something unusual or something out of the norm? Absolutely. Because for example, in Saudi, everybody wears the red and white shimagh, or they wear the white one alone. Point is, they have something on their head. The religious people, the people who are devoted and they pray, they always dress with that complete attire. So what are you going to do when you go to those countries? You want to try to dress similar, or at least like those people, so at least you look similar and you fall into the culture naturally. Now the point here the author would like to make is very simple. Part of the etiquettes of prayer is that you should wear something that is considered to be appropriate for that salah. So like we talked about last week, wearing jeans, wearing pants, wearing your gym shorts, all of these things you should try to avoid wearing them for the salah as much as you can. Come with the garment that's considered in our society to be a proper Muslim garment. So it could be something like what I'm wearing. It could be the khamis that some of the other cultures wear. Whatever is considered to be generally an Islamic garment, that's what you should try to wear. As far as the women is concerned, now this is important. Should a woman always wear abaya when she's praying? Or can she allow to wear a skirt and a top as long as it covers her well? This is an issue here that scholars, they differ about. And they don't differ on the actual garment itself. But what they differ is how well that garment will cover you. So if a woman decides to wear a skirt and she wears a top, and that top covers her extremely well. You can't see nothing, it's not transparent. You can't tell, the shape of her or anything like that. So all of the conditions of the hijab have been met. Is she permitted to dress like this? Absolutely. But when it comes to the salah, it's different. When it comes to the salah, the Prophet ﷺ always encouraged the women to always have at least one baggy garment to run over whatever they wear underneath. Even if it's a skirt and a top, at least one baggy garment should be over all of this. If they choose not to, can somebody say that your salah is incomplete? No. But this is again going towards the perfection and beauty and the manners that you have when you stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So for the kids, don't come and pray in front of Allah and you're wearing your b-ball outfit. Don't come here and stand in front of Allah. Have some respect for yourself and have some respect when you stand in front of Allah Azza wa Jal. Remember, this has nothing to do with mothers and fathers anymore. This is something that your parents also respect. Your mothers and fathers worship Allah Azza wa Jal. So that you're not doing this for them, but you're doing this because you're scared that if you don't, Allah may punish you for it. So you come to the masjid and you stand in the congregation and you stand and you look appropriate like a proper Muslim. So you make sure that your hair is combed nicely if you're not wearing anything. And if you don't want to do that, then you wear a nice kufi on your head or something. Look like a good proper Muslim and have the best etiquettes when you stand in front of Allah Azza wa Jal. Is that a deal? Deal. Good. Next error. The next error. And by the way, the evidence for this of wearing something on your head, or at least wearing a complete Muslim attire, is that the Prophet ﷺ once mentioned, فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ أَحَقُّ أَن يُتَزَيَّنَ لَهُ. Allah Azza wa Jal has more right that you dress your best than anyone else. Allah Azza wa Jal has more right over you, so you should always try to dress your best when it comes to that.